My beloved child, stop for a moment and listen carefully. There is a reason this message found you at this exact moment. Something happened last night involving the person whose name has been sitting quietly inside your heart. You may not know the complete story yet. You may have sensed something unusual. Perhaps you woke up suddenly. Perhaps their name crossed your mind without warning. Perhaps you felt an emotion that you could not explain. And now you are here. My child, do not allow fear to write a story before the truth arrives. Your soulmate was with someone last night. Yes, someone was around them. But what happened next is the part you were never expecting. Because the situation did not unfold the way it appeared from the outside. There was a conversation. There was a moment of realization. There was something your soulmate heard that forced them to confront emotions they had been avoiding for a long time. And before this message ends, you are going to understand why that encounter may have changed something inside them. So do not rush away. Do not immediately assume betrayal. Do not let your imagination punish you for information you do not possess. There is a difference between what something looks like and what it actually means. And last night, that difference became enormous. Your soulmate may have been sitting with someone. They may have met someone unexpectedly. They may have been speaking to a person connected to their past, their family, their friendships, or even a situation they believed was already finished. From the outside, it could look concerning. It could make your heart ask questions. Who was that person? Why were they together? What were they talking about? Did my soulmate forget about me? Was something happening behind my back? But my beloved child, there is another side to this story. And that side is where the real revelation begins. Because your soulmate was not prepared for what they were about to hear. Someone brought up your name. Perhaps indirectly. Perhaps through a question. Perhaps through a memory. Perhaps through something as simple as a photograph, a message, an old conversation, or a reminder of a moment you both shared. But somehow, you became the subject. And when your soulmate heard about you, their entire energy changed. They tried to remain calm. They tried to act as though nothing affected them. But their reaction revealed more than their words. There are people who can hide their sentences. There are people who can control their expressions. But there are moments when the heart reacts before the mind can create a disguise. That happened last night. Your soulmate realized that they were not as detached from you as they had been pretending. Someone asked them a question. It may have been simple. Something like, "Are you really over them?" And suddenly, silence. Not an ordinary silence. The kind of silence that happens when someone has been confronted with something they have been avoiding. Your soulmate did not immediately answer. Because deep inside, they already knew the answer. They may have tried to move forward. They may have distracted themselves. They may have surrounded themselves with people. They may have told others that everything was fine. But last night, something broke through that emotional wall. And your name reached a place in their heart that nobody else could easily reach. My child, sometimes a person does not understand the value of something until they are forced to imagine life without it. Your soulmate may have been trying to convince themselves that they could continue without addressing what happened between you. But last night, someone challenged that belief. They asked questions. They reminded your soulmate of things. They may have pointed out the changes they noticed. They may have said something your soulmate did not want to hear. And one sentence in particular may have stayed with them long after the conversation ended. Why are you pretending you don't care? That question hit differently. Because your soulmate knew there was truth inside it. They had been pretending. Pretending not to miss you. Pretending they were unaffected. Pretending the distance was easier than it really was. Pretending that silence meant the connection had disappeared. But silence does not always mean absence. Sometimes silence means someone is struggling to understand what they feel. And last night, your soulmate could no longer run from that question. They began remembering. They remembered your voice. They remembered the little things. The conversations nobody else understood. The moments when you made them feel seen. The way you cared when they did not expect anyone to care. The small details you probably thought they had forgotten. They remembered. And suddenly, the person sitting across from them became almost irrelevant. Because mentally, emotionally, your soulmate was somewhere else. They were remembering you. My beloved child, this is why you must not allow one image to destroy your peace. You may hear that your soulmate was with someone. You may even see evidence that they spent time together. But circumstances do not always reveal intentions. And intentions are where this story becomes surprising. The person they were with may have been expecting one reaction from your soulmate. Instead, they received another. They expected confidence. They expected certainty. They expected your soulmate to say that they had moved on. But your soulmate hesitated. And that hesitation said everything. There was something unfinished. Something unresolved. Something still alive inside them. Perhaps they were asked whether they would choose you again if given the opportunity. And instead of laughing at the question, they became quiet. Imagine that. Someone who once avoided speaking about you suddenly unable to find the right words. Someone who appeared distant suddenly confronted by their own emotions. Someone who thought they had control suddenly realizing that the heart does not always obey the plans of the mind. And then something even more unexpected happened. Your soulmate received a message. Maybe it was from their phone. Maybe it was connected to you. Maybe it was simply a reminder that arrived at exactly the wrong. Or perhaps exactly the right moment. They looked at the screen. They paused. And the person beside them noticed. That moment created another conversation. Your soulmate may not have told the whole truth. But their reaction was enough to reveal that something still mattered. My child, there are moments when heaven does not need to shout. Sometimes one conversation is enough. One question. One memory. One unexpected reminder. One moment of honesty. And suddenly, a person sees what they have been refusing to see. Last night may have been that moment for your soulmate. They realized that distraction was not healing. Distance was not resolution. And pretending was not peace. They may have discovered that no matter how many people surrounded them, they could not simply replace a connection that had affected them deeply. Now listen carefully. This does not mean you should chase them. It does not mean you should send 10 messages. It does not mean you should demand answers tonight. And it certainly does not mean you should abandon your dignity just because emotions are rising. If anything, this moment is calling you toward stillness. Let them process what they experienced. Let them sit with their own realization. Let them decide what they are going to do next. Because genuine realization cannot be forced. A person has to arrive at it themselves. And your soulmate may finally be arriving at a place they avoided for a long time. They may be asking themselves, why do I still think about this person? Why does their name still affect me? Why do I compare other connections to what I had with them? Why does moving forward feel incomplete? Why did I become so emotional when someone mentioned them? These questions are not small. They can change someone's direction. And perhaps that is what happened last night. But there is another layer you need to understand. The person your soulmate was with may have their own opinion about you. They may have noticed how deeply your soulmate still reacts to your name. They may have realized that there is something they cannot compete with. Not because you are better than everyone else. Not because you need to prove anything. But because genuine emotional history cannot simply be erased. They may have looked at your soulmate and realized, this person still cares. And that realization could have changed the entire atmosphere. Perhaps they encouraged your soulmate to contact you. Perhaps they told them to stop running. Perhaps they asked why they were allowing pride, fear, or circumstances to keep two people apart. And maybe your soulmate did not answer. Maybe they simply looked down. Because sometimes the truth is painful before it becomes freeing. My beloved child, you may have spent nights wondering whether they still think about you. You may have questioned whether they moved on. You may have wondered if another person had taken your place. You may have blamed yourself for the distance. But last night may have answered one of those questions. Your absence was noticed. Your name carried weight. And your soulmate's reaction revealed something they had been hiding. Now, before you continue, take a deep breath. Do not let this message turn into anxiety. Let it become discernment. There is a difference. Fear says, they are with someone else. I have lost them. Discernment says, I do not know the entire story yet, so I will not destroy my peace with assumptions. That second response is strength. You are not being asked to obsess over your soulmate. You are being reminded to protect your heart. If this connection is meant to move forward, it should move forward through honesty, respect, maturity, and genuine action. Not confusion. Not manipulation. Not endless waiting. Not emotional games. Your soulmate's realization is only meaningful if it eventually produces responsible action. And this is where you must remain wise. Because your soulmate may be thinking about you tonight. They may be replaying the conversation. They may be looking through old memories. They may even type a message and delete it. They may open your conversation. Read something you once sent. Put the phone down. Pick it up again. Wonder whether you would respond. Wonder whether too much time has passed. Wonder whether you still care. But remember this. Their uncertainty does not become your responsibility. You do not have to rescue them from their own hesitation. You do not have to convince them of your value. You do not have to compete with anyone. Your value existed before they recognized it. And your worth will remain whether they return or not. That is the place of strength you must stand in. Now, something else may happen after this realization. Your soulmate may begin seeing familiar things differently. A song may remind them of you. A location may trigger a memory. A phrase may bring your conversation back into their mind. A mutual friend may mention you. They may encounter something connected to a moment you shared. And suddenly, emotions they thought were buried rise again. Do not mistake this for weakness. Sometimes memory is simply the mind revisiting unfinished emotional material. And last night may have opened a door they had kept closed. But the biggest surprise is not that your soulmate thought about you. The biggest surprise is that someone else may have noticed it before your soulmate was willing to admit it. That is what makes this situation different. Someone standing outside the connection may have seen the truth more clearly than the person inside it. They may have said, "You still love them." And those words may have landed heavily. Maybe your soulmate denied it. Maybe they changed the subject. Maybe they became defensive. But the emotional reaction remained. And when the conversation ended, they were left alone with themselves. That is when the real confrontation began. No audience. No distractions. No pretending. Just them and their thoughts. And that may have been the hardest part of the entire night. Because when the world becomes quiet, the truth often becomes louder. They may have realized that they were not angry at you. They were angry at the situation. They were frustrated by timing. They were disappointed by themselves. They were afraid of rejection. They were afraid that you had changed. They were afraid that they waited too long. And perhaps the greatest fear was this. What if they no longer want me? My child, that question can humble even the strongest heart. The person who once acted confident may suddenly feel uncertain. The person who walked away may suddenly wonder whether the door is still open. The person who believed you would always be there may finally understand that your patience has limits. And that realization can change behavior. But again, do not chase. Let actions speak. If they truly want another opportunity, they must demonstrate it. If they truly value you, they must communicate honestly. If they truly regret what happened, they must take responsibility. You do not need to accept confusion simply because you love someone. Love without wisdom can become exhaustion. Love with wisdom becomes discernment. And tonight, you are being reminded to choose discernment. There is also something beautiful about what happened last night. Your soulmate may have realized that they were looking for peace in the wrong places. They may have tried to fill an emotional gap with attention, social activity, conversations, or other connections. But none of those things answered the deeper question inside them. What do I actually want? And when your name entered the conversation, the answer became harder to ignore. Maybe they don't have everything figured out yet. Maybe they still have fears. Maybe circumstances remain complicated. But something shifted. And sometimes a shift begins quietly before it becomes visible. Do not demand that tomorrow reveal everything tonight. Give life room to unfold. Protect your peace. Keep your heart grounded. Pray if prayer is part of your faith. Ask God for wisdom rather than simply asking for the person. Because there is a difference between saying, God, make this person come back, and saying, God, if this connection is good for my life, let truth, maturity, and peace guide what happens next. That second prayer protects you. It leaves room for something healthier than obsession. It allows you to receive what is right without forcing what is not. And if your soulmate truly belongs in your future, you will not need to destroy yourself trying to make it happen. Now listen to this final part carefully. The title brought you here because your soulmate was with someone last night. But the real story is not about the person they were with. It is about what that encounter revealed. It revealed that something inside your soulmate remains unresolved. It revealed that your name still carries emotional weight. It revealed that someone else noticed the reaction. It revealed that the story between you and your soulmate may not be emotionally finished. But most importantly, it revealed something about you. You are entering a season where you must stop measuring your worth by someone's behavior. You must stop asking, why didn't they choose me? Start asking, does this connection honor who I am becoming? That question changes everything. Because you are not here to beg for love. You are not here to compete for attention. You are not here to convince someone that you deserve honesty. You deserve clarity. You deserve respect. You deserve consistency. And if your soulmate comes back, let them come back with truth. Let them come back with accountability. Let them come back with intentions that can be seen through actions. Not merely emotional words spoken at midnight. Not promises made in moments of loneliness. Real change is visible. Real love is responsible. Real commitment does not keep you permanently guessing. So if your soulmate is thinking about you tonight, let them think. If they are remembering you, let them remember. If they are questioning their choices, let them question. If they are considering reaching out, let them make that decision. You do not need to run toward them. Stand still long enough to see whether they are willing to walk toward you. And perhaps that is the greatest surprise hidden inside last night's encounter. Your soulmate may have entered that conversation believing they had already moved forward. They may have walked away realizing they had not. They may have thought your chapter was closed. Instead, they discovered there were pages they had never truly finished reading. And tonight, those pages are in their mind again. So before nightfall, do not panic. Do not investigate obsessively. Do not assume the worst. Do not create imaginary enemies. Take this moment as an invitation to calm your heart. What is hidden will eventually become clear. What is genuine will eventually require action. And what is not meant for you will not have the power to destroy your future. My beloved child, remember this. You cannot lose what is truly aligned with your life by refusing to chase it. You cannot force what is not ready. And you do not need to become smaller so someone else can finally recognize your value. Tonight, let peace be louder than fear. Let wisdom be stronger than curiosity. Let faith be greater than assumptions. And if there is a conversation waiting to happen, allow it to happen naturally. If there is an apology coming, let it come sincerely. If there is a message coming, let it arrive without you begging for it. If there is a reunion meant to happen, let it be built on something stronger than nostalgia. And if your soulmate finally realizes what they lost, let them prove that realization through their choices. Because the real shock was never that they were with someone last night. The real shock was what that encounter revealed about their heart. Someone mentioned you. They reacted. Someone questioned them. They became silent. Someone challenged their certainty. And suddenly, everything they had been trying not to feel came rushing back. Now they are left with a decision. Continue pretending. Or finally become honest. And that decision belongs to them. Your decision is different. Your decision is to keep becoming the person God created you to be. Keep your heart soft, but keep your boundaries strong. Keep hope, but do not abandon wisdom. Keep faith, but do not ignore reality. And most importantly, never confuse waiting with living. Your life is happening right now. Your future is not suspended until another person decides what they want. Walk forward. Grow. Heal. Build. Smile again. Pray again. Dream again. And if your soulmate is truly meant to walk beside you, let them meet you as you move forward. Not as you remain trapped in yesterday. Because sometimes the greatest divine redirection happens when you stop chasing an answer and begin becoming ready for the truth. Tonight, something may be different. Not necessarily because someone suddenly appears at your door. Not necessarily because your phone immediately lights up. But because something inside the situation has shifted. And sometimes the first sign of change is not an external event. It is a change in someone's understanding. Last night, your soulmate may have finally understood something they had been avoiding. They may have realized that you were not simply a chapter they could close whenever convenient. They may have realized that what they felt for you was deeper than they admitted. And now they have to decide what they will do with that realization. So, my beloved child, do not fear last night. Learn from it. Do not obsess over who was there. Focus on what the encounter revealed. Do not compete with another person. Remember who you are. Do not chase your soulmate. Let their actions reveal their intentions. And do not allow one uncertain night to steal the peace of an entire future. What happened last night may surprise you. But what happens next will depend on choices, honesty, courage, and action. And if your soulmate truly has something to say, eventually they will have to say it. Until then, breathe. Release the fear. Release the assumptions. Release the need to control every detail. Place the situation before God. And say, God, reveal the truth. Remove confusion. Protect my heart. If this connection is meant for me, let it return with honesty and peace. If it is not, give me the strength to walk towards something better. That is not giving up. That is surrendering fear. And sometimes surrender is where clarity begins. Your soulmate was with someone last night. But the person they were with may not be the most important part of the story. Because after that encounter, your name remained in their thoughts. And tonight, they may finally be asking themselves the question they have avoided for far too long. What am I going to do about the person I still cannot forget? Let them answer it. You do not have to. Your chapter continues either way. And perhaps, before the night is over, you will understand why you were led to hear this message today. Stay peaceful. Stay discerning. Stay grounded. And never forget. What is meant to find you does not need you to lose yourself first. Amen.